Happy Friday. Happy snowy Friday here in Ohio. It is cold as heck, but we are here indoors with heat and about to watch a pretty awesome transfer panel. So we are going to be over your lunch hour. Brian Wirick from NC State is going to be leading us on this journey today. We're going to go over some pretty awesome content. And he is going to pull on some professionals from all over the state, so it should be pretty good. We are going to ask that if you guys have some questions, feel free to put them in the chat, whether you are on Zoom or on YouTube. We should be able to get them both. If you want it to be public, you can just put it out to the group. If not, you can send that question directly to Brian or I, and those will be answered likely at the end during the Q&A session. So like I said, feel free to keep dropping those in the chat, but for now, I'm going to turn it over to Brian.
Thank you, Jonathan, and hello, everyone. Welcome to our discussion today highlighting transfer advising models. We're excited to have a panel of experts representing both community colleges and universities within Ohio, who will explain how the advising of transfer students is coordinated within their institutions. We hope to identify many of the important roles and responsibilities within transfer advising, from student onboarding through completion, and to examine the strengths and challenges within the process. We have 9 panelists here representing 6 different institutions. We'll hear from each of them on identifying the measures at their respective schools to ensure that students are moving towards a successful transition. They'll also share how they collaborate with other key representatives within the process. Furthermore, we'll learn more of some of the different responsibilities between both a 2- and a 4-year setting, as we have individuals again from both areas. And then finally, after we have concluded the presentations, we hope to allow time for a question and answer session at the end. So thank you everyone for joining us. And at this time, I'd like to at least briefly share with you an overview of our entire group. So we have here, again, 9 representatives from 6 different institutions. We're going to start here in a moment, but I wanted to again show you each of the presenters as well as their respective institution and title. So once again, we welcome each of them being here today, and we think that this will be, a very, very exciting time here for our panel. So with that, we're going to hand it over to our first presenter, Kimberly Coggins from Sinclair Community College, who is our Director of Transfer Partnerships. Kimberly, welcome.
Thank you so much, Brian. And let me get my screen up. Yeah, there we go. Here we go. Hello, everyone. It's truly a pleasure to be here with you today. My name is, as Brian said, my name is Kimberly Coggins, and I'm the Director of University Partnerships at Sinclair Community College in Dayton, Ohio. And let me get on to my next, whoops, I'm sorry. We obviously have, oops, I'm sorry about that. We obviously have partnerships with universities throughout Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, but these are our top feeder, or our top receiving institutions, I should say. And we work really hard in creating those transfer partners that ensure students a up-to-date and seamless transfer. And we want them to have the best transfer experience they can. So we work with many, many partners, but these in particular are where we spend time trying, and a lot of it is, closeness and proximity too, but trying to spend time really educating our students on how to transfer and the best way to do that. Here are some different things that we've been doing for outreach opportunities. Because we are such a large community college and we have students who have a variety of interest in transfer options, it's really my primary responsibility to make those connections with our university partners to educate our students. And so because of COVID, we have really had to become creative and create opportunities for our students to meet with our university partners. And what I have done since last summer is created a Transfer 101 virtual series. And And what that does is allow students to basically join us in a Zoom room and meet their university connection and learn about the transfer pathways, the scholarship opportunities, specific transfer information. And we provide that to students through an event calendar on the University Partnership webpage. And we also send students direct email invitations that have a current transfer pathway assigned to them. This has been so successful, and I just appreciate all of the schools that have responded and reached out and said they would like to participate in this opportunity. And I know our students appreciate it. And what it does also is provides them with a connection so that when the Zoom meeting is over, they know who they can reach out to and ask additional questions of and get those answered. Some of the other things that we offer to make those connections is our university representatives will actually come to campus when we're in person, obviously, and meet with our academic advisors. And this allows them to talk to them about program updates, application deadlines, again, scholarship opportunities, so they know exactly what they need to do as far as advising students and making sure they have the information they need. One of the things we actually began last year with the University of Cincinnati is program representatives actually came into the classrooms and met with faculty and students to talk about transfer and career information, specifically criminal justice education and legal studies. We're going to continue that connection, and actually this year we're going to do the same with the University of Cincinnati. However, we're going to have to do it in a virtual format. But what I'd like to do is expand upon that and have other university program reps come into our classrooms and actually meet with our students. And I know Franklin University also does that on a regular basis. And that is so helpful for our students, and it's great for them to have those opportunities. The other thing that we do is we actually created advisor to advisor information sessions. This could not be more valuable for not only the advisors, but our students, because they actually sit down in a room around a table and talk through the programs, provide each other with up-to-date information, curriculum changes, anything that is important to a student, they share with each other. And we have even continued to do those virtually, which also tells us that because we've become experts in this virtual world and we have found it such an efficient way to share information, I hope that we'll be able to continue this because it will save time and be a more efficient way to meet with other university advisors and continue this practice long after we return to campus. So I'm excited about that. Oh, I'm sorry, I went too fast. One of the things I did want to mention is our academic advisors are truly the resident experts when it comes to providing our students with transfer information, understanding how the transfer pathway works, and making them more aware of what their opportunities are, the different schools that house their major. And they also make sure students are assigned to the appropriate transfer pathway. Once that happens, they map their associate degree out. The map is called My Academic Plan. So the student knows exactly what courses they need to take each semester to complete the associate degree and enter the university with junior status. And so I rely heavily on our academic advisors to meet with our transfer students and provide them with the most up-to-date information. I would like to take a moment just to talk to you about a couple of our preferred partnerships that really go what I consider above and beyond the practice of transfer. And our first one is with the University of Dayton. And I have shared this with my counterpart, Julia Thompson at the University of Dayton in an OTC meeting. And so you may know a little bit about this, but for those of you that don't, I'd just like to share a couple of things. The UD Sinclair Academy allows students to choose an articulated pathway at Sinclair, follow it through to associate degree completion, and then enter the University of Dayton with junior status. This has become such a popular program. We have grown tremendously. We started in 2016 with 9 students. Now we're close to 200 students entering the academy. It's a very viable option, affordable option now for students to complete a UD bachelor's degree. Students are really considered dual citizens because while they're at Sinclair, they're also assigned to an academic advisor at UD. They're meeting with them each semester to make sure they're staying on track with their academic pathway. And they also are engaging in everything campus life has to offer at UD. They receive an ID card from UD and they can visit the campus, join clubs, organizations, work in their work. That's right. They can do, they can work part-time as student workers. It's an amazing opportunity for these students. And this is an example of what an academic pathway looks like from Sinclair to UD. This just happens to be the business administration degree. And as you can see on this side, we list all the Sinclair courses and the corresponding UD courses over here. But this is tremendously helpful for our students to follow their map, and academic advising relies heavily on these. Between our joint curriculum offices, we're able to keep these updated so that students are always following the current curriculum and program pathway. These have been so incredibly valuable, and that we are now creating these academic pathways for most of our partnerships universities. They're going to have the same look, so they're not confusing to students and they know exactly what they're looking at. The other pathway I want to briefly share is the Right Path. Because Wright State is, again, just like UD, just a stone's throw from Sinclair, this is an easily affordable and convenient way for students to do a 2+2 pathway. And again, many of the same opportunities given to them from Wright State, or I'm sorry, as UD, but probably the one thing that stands out most is Wright State allows our students to live on their campus while they're freshmen and sophomores at Sinclair. That way they can still get the campus life experience, become engaged in campus life. And because of the close proximity, many of our students take advantage of this opportunity. These are wonderful partnerships, and we hope to continue to grow many more as we've now learned that we can do so many of these things virtually. So that's all I have to share for today. And now I am going to turn this over to Paul Wells from Stark State.
Sorry, getting my mic and everything turned on here. Let's see, what am I missing here? My video, I believe, is the next setting. Let's see here. All right. Is everyone able to see my video here? All right. Brian, are you able to tell me if you can see my video, my presentation okay?
I can see your slide. Yeah, I don't see a video, but I can see a slide here.
You can see the slide, okay. So welcome everyone. My name is Paul Wells. I'm from Stark State College. I'm going to be focusing on the advising relationship today, specifically to two-year institutions. I'd like to provide some overarching themes that I think are important for any of us that work in any sort of student-facing capacity. These definitely ring true in working in transfer student advising, but I think you can make the case these are beneficial for anybody who's looking to serve students. First one we think about is we want to be responsive, obviously, in the advising relationship with students. The transfer process has the potential, in many cases, to possibly be a stressful one for many students. We want to make sure that we're very responsive in getting back to them with their inquiries and with their questions. If we need to search out an answer for them, we want to be clear with the information that we're providing. This can oftentimes, be overwhelming for certain students. Think about the first time that a student ever asked you to guide them in transferring to an institution that you never worked with before. So you're now trying to learn those answers, obtain that information, figure out those processes, identify those courses. We want to be accurate in what we're sharing with them. Obviously, we're always working to make sure we're making sure that a student doesn't take a class they don't have, or more importantly, doesn't miss a class that they need. We want to be resourceful and be providing solutions, providing things that are specific to each student, things that are going to help them navigate this process and do it in the easiest way possible. We want to be flexible in what we're providing to them. The transfer student population we're working with, potentially this student could be anywhere from 16 to 60 with other responsibilities and things they're trying to accomplish in addition to their educational goals. So we want to meet them where they are, whether that's virtually, whether that's at the time that best suits their schedule, whatever modality works with them, anywhere and everything that helps them achieve what they're trying to do. And obviously we want to be supportive and encouraging throughout that. As we think about some of the strategies for success specific to two-year institutions, and some of these obviously could be applicable at the baccalaureate institution as well. Here at Stark State, we want to involve the student very early in that transition, in that transfer process. As early as building that first semester schedule. They haven't even begun here yet. We want to talk about, what's the next step? Where do you see yourself going, school-wise, institution or major specific? Because then we can use that to work backwards while, as you see here, focusing on the destination and figuring out, yes, I might have two different individuals that are in the same field of study, but based on the fact one's going to Akron and one's going to Kent State, we might select different courses along the way to do that, continually tailoring it to what they're trying to accomplish, not simply trying to get them graduated here with their associate's degree. I mentioned here, we do want to praise, and please excuse the pun, but to a degree, we want to praise any work that they've done to this point. We have the very driven go-getter students that come in, say, oh, I looked all this up on transferology already. And that's great. That's a good thing. They're showing their initiative. They're trying to do the proper planning. They're getting involved early, but we also want to clarify now, that may tell you how that course goes from school A to school B, but do you even need that particular course? It may hinge on classes you've already completed here, or classes you might have completed at your previous institution, where Stark State is school B, and we're trying to plan for school C as well. We want to highlight institutional resources for all of these students, and that may be offices, academic advising, individual colleges. It might be grant-based programs like TRIO and other ones who have a stake in the transfer process. There's many people here at Stark State College where it's part of their responsibility, might be military services, might be disability services, might be another office, even the financial aid office. We all play a role in the transfer process, and we want to showcase to these students who's here to help them do that. It might be technology. We might be wanting to make sure they're using things like Starfish and their degree audit and different pieces of technology that exist here in different systems that allow them to monitor that. I'd like to when I'm talking to a newer advisor or someone new to the transfer process, I like to tell them it's important to explain the why to the student, not so much that a course did or didn't transfer here from that previous institution, but kind of talk about why that might be the case. And let me give you an example. So let's say the student who said, well, I took operations management in my last school, why didn't that transfer in here? Rather than just simply saying, we don't take that course, you know, if I go one step further and say, well, for example, maybe our operations management course requires a prereq of something like college algebra. It had that certain math content. You know, that wasn't the case, unfortunately, at that previous institution. That creates value in the advising relationship. Also sometimes plants the seed in that student's mind. Okay, I can kind of see what we're talking about here, maybe why it did or didn't transfer. They're going to then become more involved in reaching out to me as an advisor or that next institution where they're going to head after us, to be able to say, all right, now I want to make sure as I'm building this schedule, can you bless it before these classes even begin in case I need to tweak it? We want to be providing individual specific referrals as well. Some of the people here, Danielle, I'll call out Danielle from Franklin. You know, we like to give out Danielle's name, her personal contact info. I do this with individuals at the University of Akron and at Kent State and at Walsh and Malone and a variety of other schools. So that way, when they're reaching out, they have a person, they have a name, not just a general office that they're contacting. So that way they remember what they've already shared. They create a relationship at that baccalaureate institution. They're getting information there that they don't have to tell their story from scratch, you know, if they're continuing to work with multiple people. So the one-on-one relationships we can create early on at that next institution is so crucial in making this a smooth process for them. We want to expand options whenever possible. That typically means, tell me about where you see yourself going after you graduate from here, and maybe throwing out a second or third choice. Not necessarily not focusing on your first choice, but if anything falls through for your first choice destination after you transfer from us, we want to have some other option out there if the financial aid didn't work out, or the credit hours maybe weren't what you expected. Being able to constantly have them look at multiple opportunities, backup plans, contingency options, that's always going to ensure their success in the transfer process. And then finally, offering alternatives. The most common example of this often is in majors. So a student might say, you know, well, what's your goal? Well, I want to go into zoology or some science field. You know, that might have a different name at different institutions. You know, there might be at a larger institution like Kent State has a zoology major. Maybe at a smaller private institution, they're best served completing their biology major. So we talk about not just what the cost is or the financial aid of tuition, but how many credits do you have left to go? How close are you to the finish line? That sometimes might play a role in, oh, okay, well, I assume I was transferring to this place because of their cost, but this other school, I'm way closer. I could finish in 2 semesters, even though the tuition's higher than 5. Now they're on my list of maybes. So these are just some of the strategies that we find here at Stark State work well in any aspect of the transfer process, whether they're getting ready to start here for the first time or they're getting ready to graduate in a couple months. This is my contact information here. Please don't be shy about reaching out if I can help you in any way. If you have any questions or your students, this is how I can be reached. Obviously, I'll welcome to answer any questions you have during the Q&A as well. And I will pass the baton to our next presenter.
Thanks, Paul. I'm going to go ahead and hopefully share screen here. All right, so hopefully everyone can see my screen here. My name is Trish Jefferson, and I am the Director for Undergraduate Admissions and Recruitment, specifically within the Fisher College of Business at The Ohio State University. I'm going to talk today real briefly about the transfer student journey. As you can see, as a Director of Admissions, you can imagine that a lot of my time, resources, and the questions I get are a lot about oh, Andrea, are we in presenter mode? Okay. Hopefully I can fix this. Sorry, everybody. Sorry, I apologize. You can't see the slides? Is that what I'm hearing, Brian?
I can see it, but it looks like it's in
Oh no.
presenter mode, like you.
It's good, Trish. We're adaptable. Just keep it as it
We're
is.
good. We can keep going.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Sorry, everyone. I apologize.
If it
We'll make it
helps,
work. We'll make it work.
It works. That's fine.
If it helps, right at the top where it says end slideshow or display settings, you would go under display settings and swap presenter view and slideshow.
Let's try that. Did it work?
No.
Is it good? All right. Sorry, everybody. We'll keep going. I know we don't have too much time here. But yeah, so I am Director of Admissions. So you can imagine a lot of my time is spent on the fall freshman class. So what you're going to see today in our transfer student journey and how we work with transfers is truly a love and a lens for transfer students. We have carved out a lot of time and resources to be sure that we're serving this population. And so on my end of things, my end of the student journey, we really spent a lot of time in recruitment mode, and we thought more intentionally about a communication plan for our transfer students from inquiry to getting their admit letter. We thought very intentionally about our website. You know, a lot of the resources that they needed at certain points in the process, they could not access easily. And also accessibility. How can we put ourselves out there to our transfer students, which in the past, we honestly were not good at. They really couldn't get to us till the point that they were admitted or at orientation. We also are trying to be very transparent about the admission process. Fisher is a competitive college, no two ways about it. There's a required GPA, required courses. But at this point now, we work with university admissions. I actually review applications. I have a dotted line to the transfer credit evaluation process for our students. So we're really trying to immerse ourselves in both the recruitment and admissions processes so that it is continually improving. And then really the third mission that I have is to create that bridge to our orientation and advising team. One of the best things that I can say about our team is that our offices, we are actually embedded in the academic advising office within undergraduate programs. So we are in constant communication. I will connect students at the point of admission to an academic advisor if they need that additional information prior to decision making. I provide enrollment data. So I have all sorts of data about our transfer class. Data tells a story, and to really push for more resources, sometimes you do need that data, but I do share that with our academic advisors, and vice versa. They share with us information about how students are performing. One thing we want to avoid is any transfer student coming to orientation feeling surprised or shocked. So we work very closely with our orientation and advising team. I will say we have tried as a college to reach out to our two-year partners. Certainly right in our backyard are our good friends at Columbus State. And so hosting virtual hours there is certainly something that we do. But recently trying to reach out, especially with Tri-C and some of the other 2 years, really trying to, as a college, be more accessible to our two-year partners. But most importantly, what I do is what I'm going to do right now. I do a handoff to our advising team, and that is my good colleague, Andrea Evans.
So, and that, from the perspective of an academic advisor, that warm handoff is amazing. That's something we've definitely developed and spent time building that relationship in our college so that we can make this journey, this transfer process as smooth as possible for our students. We're constantly thinking about how do we make this easier for them? How can we do things better so it's less confusing? Because we know it's a stressful and confusing process for our students. And having that constant communication between admissions and orientation, which I coordinate, and advising is really integral to that process. And so to the point that, you know, we have weekly staff meetings and all of us are in that weekly meeting. And so it's a constant communication year round that we're dedicated to. What we've done in Fisher specifically here at Ohio State is that we've been very intentional that our orientation of our transfer students does not stop during the summer at orientation. We know that even though they are not new to college, they are new to our university. Even if they're coming from a four-year institution, it is a new experience. And in some ways they're much like a new freshman. And so, you know, I know a lot of institutions will teach a first, you know, 1 credit seminar class in the first term for all of their new students. We have a similar course built specifically for our transfer population where we target messaging straight to them. And as you'd expect at the beginning of the term, all the students are saying, hey, I've got this class already from my previous school. Can I get transfer credit for this class? Can I get out of this class? Can I avoid this class in any possible way? And the answer is no, they cannot. And by by the end of the semester, the students, and I teach this class, so they're thankful that they were in it. They're like, this was so much better. I didn't realize what I needed and what I needed to know. And I now feel much more confident to move forward. And so, we know as the experts that, what they don't know and what they need more so than they do in a lot of cases. So we're very intentional in mandating a survey course for all of our incoming transfer students. And that course is taught by their academic advisor, and they will work with that academic advisor during their entire time. And so they have that touch point in their very first semester until they graduate. And that's how we make sure that what we're doing is really targeting the needs of the transfer students, and we're not just sort of lumping them in with all new students. So in the interest of time, I'm going to pass it over to Kia, who'll talk more about other things we're doing at Ohio State, but from a different college perspective. Go for it, Kia.
Thank you. All right, now let's see if I can manage to share my screen and not talk with the mute button activated. Happy Friday, everybody. I am Kia McKinnie. I am the Director of Undergraduate Recruitment, Retention, and Student Engagement in the College of Education and Human Ecology. Now, you'll notice, because I am also at The Ohio State University with Fisher College of Business, we tried to parallel the slide so that there was some sort of way for you to compare and contrast the way that we operate. You're going to see a lot of similarities. We do tend to, benchmark with each other, have conversations with each other. So across campus, we're not in competition with each other. So if something is working, then trust and believe the rest of us will try to capture that same initiative and put it in place if we can. So what you'll see here, as far as the EHE journey, we also communicate with students from inquiry through orientation. And, given the fact that we have a number of different programs, over 25 different program options, it's really important that transfer students understand kind of the nuances of those programs and how their credits may apply. So, we are a receiving college. We tend to have a significant number of transfer students. In some years, we've had more transfer students than incoming freshmen. And so we have to give the care to this population. We've implemented, if there's a takeaway, we've implemented a bookings website to assist with the prospective student appointments. I was about to be all tongue tied. And that has been a significant help, especially given this environment, COVID, being virtual, that's just helped tremendously. So if there's a takeaway, if you have access to any Microsoft products, there's the plug, okay? We also participate in drop-in hours at Columbus State, and that's not to say we aren't interested in possibly expanding that to other institutions. We do get a significant number of our transfer students directly from Columbus State. So, being accessible at other institutions is important. Having that communication plan is important. We will do unofficial transfer credit evaluations from the context of, hey, if you're pursuing X program, these are the courses that are really important for you to get done before you transfer in, okay? Students are always directly admitted into the college when they get admitted to the university. However, there are competitive admissions by program. So some of our education programs, science programs are competitive. And so having honest conversations with students about what's expected, right, in order to get into those programs is crucial. And in some cases, the deciding factor on if transferring into EHE or transferring to Ohio State is a good idea at all. We do the unofficial transcript evaluations because we have to, right? We have to be honest and say, for example, hey, if you're thinking of transferring in education, it's a minimum of 3 years. Like, students need to know that. So, instead of making them go through the entire funnel before they make the decision, we do try to have that conversation sooner than later. So that's something that isn't a perfect science, but we're still trying to figure out how to navigate that. Transfer students are paired up with advising, and historically it's been at the point of orientation is when we also pass the baton. Given the feedback and the engagement we've had with transfer students, we are trying to figure out, how can we connect them a little bit sooner with advising. And so that's something that we're still working on, right, at the moment. We also try to provide enrollment data throughout the cycle, right? So, advising is very clear on where we are with our transfer numbers, paid acceptance fees, and all of that. And that's really important. We also follow up with the retention and messaging and performance and communication and try to figure out how our transfer students are doing. That's also something we do. And again, Trish and I have worked together for years. So I'm like, oh, that works. Okay, yeah, let's try it, and vice versa. As far as orientation, again, you're going to see a very similar thing. The one-on-one time with advising is important. You all know this, I'm preaching to the choir, but when we're talking about transfer students, it's less about, the OSU show, the insert your school name here, and how does what I've done apply to this program, and how long are we talking, right? How long is the commitment? So that conversation is very important. The other thing I think that we have been really trying to be intentional about is removing the barriers we've created. So what barriers do we have in place that are impeding the progress of transfer students that we have full control over making that change? One example is we just moved to direct admit for some of our education programs, early childhood, middle childhood. So, transfer students who are admitted to the university are directly admitted into those programs. So really just trying to be intentional with what the data says and then making changes as a result. Every one of our advisors works with transfer students. And so, every advisor has transfer students on their roster, incoming first semester students. We also have a special section of survey for our transfer students that they have to take. It's mandatory, just like Andrea alluded to. No, you can't get out of it. No, we won't accept your previous class, because, we really need to make sure that you are getting acclimated to campus and your program in the college. As far as challenges, again, we're trying to figure out how we can engage and what else we can do sooner, right? Everybody has constraints, especially with staffing, timing, current students and all of that. So just trying to figure out what else we can do proactively to assist transfer students in making the decision. And also meeting the unique needs of transfer students. We bucket them, right? We say transfer students in one bucket, but in all honesty, we know how diverse and the variety that exists within that bucket. So how do we make these accommodations as needed, as circumstances and situations change? So it is a constant state of asking how we can do better to serve our transfer students. And especially in our case, given the fact that we have so many, we are going to put the resources towards supporting them to make sure that we're onboarding them the best that we can. So with that being said, I will stop sharing. And I will pass my imaginary mic to Andrew.
Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew Coggins. Thank you for the introduction, Kia. I am assuming my screen is being shared at this time.
Correct.
Okay. The things I really want to go through, of course, you can see me and Cody. We are the two transfer people in the Office of Admissions who makes the decisions on transfer students. That just gives you a little bit about the demographics and where our students are coming from. Cincinnati State being our #1 feeder, considering they're only 2 miles away from us, that helps. Then also Sinclair. So we work with students from all over the tri-state area. Being here in Cincinnati, we're right at the influence of Ohio, Kentucky, and the Commonwealth of Indiana. The academic advising model at the University of Cincinnati is by college. So once you are admitted into a major, all of your academic advising is done through the college. In order to help transfer students, what we have done is taken a two-headed approach. As you can see there, we have a transfer and transition advising center. They do all of our pre-transfer advising. So anytime a student wants to know what credits will transfer, they can do an unofficial preliminary credit evaluation, look at applicability versus transferability. So as my famous example is, if a student started in nursing, they saw blood, they fainted, now they want to go into business, the Linder College of Business, when I give them a lot of credit for their nursing classes. So we try to make sure they understand what will be used towards their degree. So we have advisors who work in the Transfer and Transition Center, and they help with that. They help with exploring program options. And we've all got that student who's coming to your office, sat down in the chair and said, what is the quickest degree I can get? I don't care what it is. I just want to get out of here with a degree. So they work with all of those students. The dividing line is that in the Office of Admissions, we will talk about the majors that we offer and the requirements and the review process. Who do we accept credit from? We are the ones who handle the application. So we look at the deadlines, accepting and processing transcripts. We have a separate area that does the official credit evaluation, and students belong to the Office of Admissions up until the start of the semester. So if they want to make a major change before then, they still go through the Office of Admissions. So we have a two-pronged approach. We do warm trade-offs all the time. I talk to my colleagues over in Transfer and Transition Advising Center. We get students directly over to them when they have academic questions, everything from will it apply towards my degree to how long will it take me to get here. So this was done in conjunction with knowing that because we do advising by academic colleges, that they don't always have the time to sit down and work with transfer students until they confirm and get in. So with that, we're going to move this on. I would like to move this on to Danielle, my colleague from Franklin. Well, we don't work together, but I've met her a couple times. So we'll send this over to Danielle over at Franklin University.
Thanks, Andrew. My supervisor, actually Joe Smith, is actually going to begin the presentation.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joseph Smith. I'm the, as of this week, the new director of the Community College Alliance for all of Ohio. So my role is to lead a team that takes transfer students and transfer credit from 21 of our partner community colleges in Ohio. We have a blanket articulation with all of them, which allows us to essentially take up to 94 credit hours and apply it toward your degree with Franklin. Danielle, next slide. We have a process where students can inquire anytime, thank you, anytime during the process of doing their associate's degree at our partner schools. They can apply, they can have information appointments. I have a team of 6 people who divide up the state of Ohio and work with specific colleges. So Danielle, for example, works with North Central State, Tri-C, Lakeland, Stark, Eastern Gateway, kind of Northeast Ohio. But we have individuals who work with specific schools throughout all of Ohio. And we will offer them both an official or unofficial evaluation. So if they give us the program from our community colleges, we can show them exactly how each and every one of their courses they're taking transfers into Franklin's degree and exactly where those fall. And then, of course, if there's questions, we can then, have them officially evaluated if that course has never been transferred in before. But we do both unofficial and official evaluations, or through our team. And then, of course, our team is also their first semester academic advisor. So they do registration appointments, and our CCA representative will then plan and complete that first semester of scheduling. After the official evaluation is done, we cover scheduling, orientation, advising, etc. But that's kind of all part of what our CCA representatives do. I think we're ready for the next slide, Danielle.
Great. So part of what my job then is to do is, this is kind of just a sample sheet so you guys can get an idea of something that we use, a tool that we use with our students, but we call this a degree checklist. So this is one of our bachelor's degrees in a full picture. And basically what it does is it shows all of the bachelor's degree required coursework. And then it also shows off to the right side, the actual course equivalencies from their the 2-year institutions or from their community college. And we do this, so I'm going to go to the next slide, so it'll talk a little bit more about this. But basically, one of those checklists is made up for each program that Franklin offers at their bachelor's level, which is 38. And they are updated every catalog year. So if the program is changed or anything like that, we do updated pre-checklist. And then each partner school has one made specifically for them, where their classes then are put in there so they can see the course equivalencies from their institution. And again, we all know community colleges change their course codes as well, so we have to just make sure everything is always up to date for this student. And basically one of these is completed for each transfer student that we work with. So even if they've got the official evaluation done, we will do this to kind of highlight things off for them, and they have a nice summary spreadsheet to go off of. There's some pros and cons. It is a little bit more time consuming, but there's some pros and cons. Students love them. They're extremely clear. It's easy for them to see the big picture as they're getting close to finishing up their associate's degree. Very easy for me to then be able to speak to that as an advisor. And it's easy then to provide that to the partner schools. So if they've got a student that wants to work on things early, we can show them additional classes and things that they could be doing, or course choices for electives and things like that. It's just a very easy tool. It is more time consuming. We're fixing them and updating them every year, each student. It's technically, that in itself is not official. They may have a degree audit done that we can then take that and make it match. But if it's an unofficial and we're just using that tool, it would be an unofficial. And we have to be on top of making sure they're up to date. Otherwise, the student does get confused, because if you have incorrect course codes, things like that from their institution, they don't know what to take. So pros and cons both ways, but the fact that the students love them and the clarity, they're not going away because they're such a great tool for the student. Then a transfer student's final step. So post-registration. So there's also this soft kind of warm transfer from myself over to their academic advisor. They do what we call a strong start academic advising appointment. The academic advisor makes sure that they have access to everything student portal wise, their courses, what textbooks are required. They go through the student services opportunities that they have access to as a student, and then they begin their course planning beyond that first semester. So that way the student has this clear-cut plan that they know at this point, I'm going to graduate. So they see that light at the end of the tunnel. There's also a self-paced new student orientation that is in their student portal that they gain access to upon registration that helps guide them through. So that way, when they start their first class in their first semester, they should be ready to go. That's kind of Franklin University's take on transfer. And now I'm going to send it over to the University of Toledo.
Hello everyone, my name is Hala Abou-Dahech. I'm a senior transfer specialist at the University of Toledo. And I just kind of wanted to go over briefly you guys can see my screen, right? Is it in the presenter mode?
Yes. Yeah, we can see it. Okay.
Is it in presenter mode?
It's full screen currently.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So I just kind of wanted to briefly go over our approach and when we specifically meet with the students. So in working with the transfer population, it's just very important to understand that they are different from our direct from high school population that we work with. So the needs are not the same. The kind of assistance, the kind of programming that they want to see is not the same. So first and foremost, understanding the difference in the demographic. And so here at U Toledo, we are doing more programming. We have staffing specific to transfer, and just the approach that we take is very much specific to this population of students, as opposed to, just lumping them in with the direct from high school population. So we have a transfer team where everybody has a different territory kind of across the state. I specifically have Michigan, and we feel that this helps, having somebody specific to an area so students know who is their go-to person from when they're a prospect to when they have been admitted, that person that's going to walk them through that entire process. So as I mentioned, we work with them from when they're a prospect to the time that they enroll. And our role is just so critical, and it starts at the community college. So our relationships with our two-year partners are very, very critical. So in the beginning, we work with the transfer partners to understand what the students need. And then once they've applied, we walk them through the application process, help them submit any documentation they need. And then once they're admitted, we help them with scheduling orientation and create that easy handoff between our office and their academic advisors. We're also obviously there to help with any financial aid or scholarship questions. But one thing I really want to highlight is I think it's important in our role to kind of understand where our role starts and stops. So not to try to overstep in some ways. So, you know, if they have a really deep financial aid question that I'm not sure about, just like we tell students, you know, if you're not sure, ask questions. We need to do the same ourselves in our role. So kind of official textbook advising approaches used, I would say we typically use a developmental advising approach. So we focus on their life goals, what they want to get out of coming to U Toledo, helping them pick out classes at the community college and whatnot. However, I know that NACDA says that the prescriptive advising approach, where you tell them, you know, this is what you got to do, this is when you got to do it, is outdated. But we all know there are some students where, you know, this is the preferred approach. They want to be told what to do and kind of have their hand held throughout that process. But kind of in simpler terms, we definitely take a individualized and a personalized approach. So I think for people in our role, it's just important to realize that no two students are alike. You know, I've worked with a family that it was twins. One was, I want to be a doctor like dad. The other one was, I want to become a writer. I want to write books. So, you know, every appointment is different. And so not only is it important to understand that in working with students, but also in working with our internal and external partners. Those relationships and that open communication is everything. So again, that's at the community college level. That is our student services offices on campus, and that is our academic partners on campus. So with personally, every single appointment that I have with a student, I always start with the same exact question. Tell me a little bit about yourself and what you've done academically so far. I feel like it helps break the ice. And as we know, everyone's favorite topic to talk about is themselves. So it kind of gets them going. Some of them will share more, like they'll tell you their entire life story. Others, you'll kind of have to help along. But it helps you learn a little bit more about the student to be able to best assist and serve them. What's your ultimate goal? And in my opinion, it's just very, very important as a transfer specialist to make sure they are solidified in what major they want to pursue. So I do take the time on our page to just kind of go over whatever programs they may be interested in. Some people know exactly what they want to do and say, you know, I want to be a doctor, but I hate chemistry. I never want to take chemistry in my life. We know that is not a thing. So just helping them pick whatever is best for them, I just think is so important, especially for the transfer population. And then walking them through the transfer process. So, you know, similar to Franklin, we have our own sheets that we complete with students, and they love those as well, covering our core, OTM. For me, working with the Michigan population, it's MTA. Any questions about how to complete their associates at the same time. And, you know, just that defining that timeline for them to make it more, you know, realize their dream of becoming a Rocket and transferring over. In the end, I would say flexibility is key. So with the transfer population, you know, sometimes we have to make ourselves available on a Saturday or a Sunday or whatever, because that's the only day that works for that student. Sometimes you got to make an evening appointment. And I'm proud to say, like on our team, we did provide the multiple meeting modes. So obviously pre-COVID we had in person. Hopefully we'll have that again one day soon. But Zoom and phone, we did used to provide all the modes even back then. I just think, you know, with this population, they may be working, they may have whatever it is going on in life. Just being as flexible as possible in order to serve those students is key. And just a few other things, just always be patient. I would say being a good listener. I make a point that, you know, if the phone rings when I'm meeting with a student, whether it was in person or virtually, I ignore that call. It can wait until I'm done speaking to that student. I just think, you know, it is a big step and it is very intimidating for a lot of these students. and taking this step. So just being a good listener and being there for them and being their biggest cheerleader goes a long way. Don't make any assumptions. So us in academia, you know, FAFSA, grants, whatever, we have our own little acronyms and we assume that they know, and many times they don't. So looking for those cues from those students in order to best assist, establishing trust, reminding them they're not alone. Again, it's intimidating, and many times they're like, oh, this is a place for the younger students, but you know, we know they belong on our campus too. Always being honest. Again, no two students are alike. And I would just like to end with, you know, we all have our good days and we have our bad days, but there is great power in our role and what we do every day. You know, the student that you sit down with, he could be, or he or she could be that doctor that goes on and, you know, discovers a cure for cancer. And that all started in our transfer advising appointment. So there is great power in what we do and how we serve students. And that is something I take with me to work every day. And that is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Hala, and everyone. Thank you very much. At this point, we're going to open up for question and answer. I did see a couple of questions here in the chat, but feel free to keep the questions coming if you had any additional ones. We did have a couple in here, so I wanted to try to get to these. One of the questions was, and I try to keep note of this during the presentations. This was more during, Joe, your presentation at Franklin. What are your feelings on paper versions of these transfer guides versus a digital one or one through the public view of TES? So I didn't know if you wanted to speak to that directly or.
Sure. So, I mean, it used to be paper, I guess. Obviously, over the last year, you know, it's a spreadsheet that's simply emailed as an attachment, so it becomes digital at that point. And we actually have our own transfer tool that is customized to Franklin degrees that actually is different than TES. So we have a digital version that a student could use directly on our website that is customized to Franklin courses. So we have both, I guess. So yeah, both are good. Some students like to check things off with a piece of paper, but.
Thank you. And then we had another question towards the beginning. Kimberly, I believe this was during your presentation. It says, what all does assigning the student to a transfer pathway entail? So I didn't know if you wanted to speak to that.
Yeah, sure. Well, basically it comes out of a conversation with the student about their transfer goals and exactly the program they're interested in transferring into at the university. We have, for example, we have engineering programs, just to give you an example, where students can earn an Associate of Applied Science. But we know if they want to transfer into engineering at Ohio State or UD or UC, we put them into a engineering university transfer pathway that's specific just for transfer, and make sure it has the appropriate levels, you know, science, math, engineering electives based on what they want to do at the 4-year. So that's what I mean by assigning them, is we make that their major while they're at Sinclair.
Okay, thank you. So looking through here, anyone else had any other questions, feel free to type it in. But if not, I just want to say thank you so much again to all of you, and thank you for all of you that have joined us today. Maybe a brief round of applause or just a kudos in the chat for all of our presenters. Great jobs to all of you.
And Brian, I put in the link to a digital one in case anybody wants the digital one.
Okay, thank you. And with that, Jonathan, I'll hand it back over to you.
Yeah, so thank you, everyone. That was such an informative webinar, and I think that that's a lot for us to take and use in our everyday jobs. And, you know, it was really nice seeing things from the 2-year and the 4-year perspective. I think we had a nice blend of, you know, most people I see are in Northeast Ohio employees. So I see, you know, we got our buddies from Northwest, Southwest, all over the state. So that's really great to see. So yeah, we're right at the end here. So thank you everyone for tuning in. We will be posting this webinar later. So if you need to review some things, or if you would like to pass it off to someone who had not gotten to see it or something, our next webinar is going to be, we believe sometime next month, but it's not 100% in stone yet. So we'll get that information out to you soon. But other than that, have a great weekend. Stay safe, everyone.